the other stories that I just love that's actually in the Bible, okay, is when Mary left Jesus in Jerusalem. What was he, like 12? And they're like a day away from Jerusalem, heading back home, thought that he was with, people in their caravan or whatever. No, he was back in Jerusalem at the temple. And you can find that story in Luke 2:41 through 52. It's almost like God knew that us as moms would have to be encouraged that things like this are going to happen. You may lose your child. You may leave him a day away in Jerusalem. Like, he may run around half the block. He might grab his wagon and go to walk across the busiest street. Like, we can't be everywhere at every moment of the day, watching every single thing. And so it's almost like God knew that. And he put this story in the Bible for us to be encouraged that even the mother of Jesus like lost track of him. You may have heard that mom guilt, it's just a part of motherhood. And that makes sense because you just can't seem to shake it. But what if that wasn't exactly right? What if that's actually what the enemy wants you to believe? If he can get you to feel guilty constantly, then you won't enjoy motherhood or your children for that matter. But today, we're going to break up with that belief from mom guilt. We're going to get rid of that sucker once and for all, because it's not just a part of parenting. And today, we're going to show you how faith can bring freedom. So jump on that treadmill, turn it on, and let's kick this. If you're frustrated with being the spiritual leader of your home and struggle to find time with God and want simple steps to deepen your connection with Him, create unity in your family, and raise bold, faith-filled kids, you're in the right place. Hey, I'm Melissa, wife, mom of 3, and revivalist. After 10 years of fervently praying, I saw my husband encounter God, come into salvation, and give his life to Christ through baptism. That's when I discovered the secret to seeing your family walk with Jesus and experience intimacy with God. Daily prayer. If you're ready to break generational curses, seek God more, and hear from the Holy Spirit more clearly, grab that water because we're jumping into the fire of revival. Hey mama, guilt comes from all sorts of places, especially in motherhood. Maybe it's over your kids not getting along, or you didn't react to a situation how you wish you would have, or you just didn't have time to sit and play with your kids today. Maybe you found yourself at the beginning of last night laying in bed and you realized, I didn't pray for my kids today. Oh my goodness, I didn't pray for my kids, I didn't pray for my husband, and now I'm so exhausted and I don't know what to pray, and then you just fell asleep. I get it. I've been there. But I found a way to help with that guilt over not praying for my kids. And I put a list of declarations together that makes it easy to pray for them so that I don't really have to think about it. I can know I'm going to at least cover them in this prayer and this declaration for today if I'm too exhausted to think about it or just don't really know what to pray. And so there's going to be no more running through your day, forgetting to pray, and then feeling guilty about it later. Go to revivalmomprays.com to get Ignite Revival, powerful prayers and declarations. Again, that's revivalmomprays.com, prays.com. Go and get it. Link is in the show notes. I was outside walking our dog when all of my kids followed me out. And I had asked them to stay inside because at that time they were like 2, 4, and 6. And so their impulse control wasn't quite there. And whenever they were outside, right, it's just a free for all. It's, hey, we got to run. Mom would have to chase us. So, we can make it however far we want and it's going to be completely fine. Yeah. Well, this specific day, that's what happened. They followed me outside and my 2-year-old just booked it, started going straight for the main road, which was only, I think, like 4 or 5 houses from our house. And hello, we know how fast 2-year-olds are, right? They just are like out of here. You got to put on like your sprinting shoes and ask God to like carry you on the wings of eagles. to even grab them. And so he starts taking off. And I tell my 6-year-old, like, go get him, go get him. And I go to put the dog in the house. But at this time, the dog that we had, we couldn't trust him to be in the house by himself because he would chew things up. He would jump up and steal food off the counter. He would, whatever he could do, he would do it. And so I had to run him in, put him in his pen, shut the door, all things. By the time I got back outside, my kids were nowhere to be found. Literally nowhere. I looked up and down the streets. I started to run into neighbors' backyards because sometimes they like to go into the neighbors' backyards. I didn't know which way they had actually gone. I didn't know if they had turned around and went back the other way. So like I'm frantic, like looking, running into backyards, looking this way and that way. And then I see my neighbor come turning the corner with all 3 of my children. The corner that was right next to the main street. And by the time I got to her, like I'm just bawling, I'm crying. And luckily, she must have been outside or something because my 6-year-old yelled for her, like, help, I need help with my little brother. He won't stop running. And so she went and she got him almost halfway around the block. He made it almost halfway around the block. The cars on Main Street had slowed down. Some of them, I think, stopped just to make sure that they weren't going to run out into the road. And all I could think, right, was, oh my gosh, what if he ran into the road? And that mom guilt started to sink in. What kind of mom am I that my 3 young children can get away from me, make it halfway around the block? They could have been hit by a car. Someone could have picked them up. All these things start going through my mind. And the guilt just overwhelms me. The guilt, and it stayed with me for days. Even to this day, I don't feel guilt over it anymore, thank the Lord. But for so long, I would just think like, wow, I'm such a bad mom. And I would feel guilty for what could have happened and that I wouldn't have been there to help. And so maybe for you, it's not something that extreme, but maybe you find guilt showing up in your day-to-day life. Whether it's you get angry when you know you shouldn't get angry, or you say something to your kids that you wish you wouldn't have said, or you react in a way that you just overreacted and you feel guilt over it. And you just wish, like you go to bed thinking, I just wish I could be different. And you wake up the next day and it's the same cycle and it's the same thing. And you hear people say guilt's just a part of motherhood. And so you start to believe that. Well, Mama, that's not true. That is not true. See, Jesus died for our sins, died to cover that guilt, died to cover that shame. And actually in Zechariah 3:4, it says, it talks about Joshua being covered in this filthy garment and how the angel of God is instructed to remove that filthy garment from him. And when he does, he says, I have removed your guilt from you, and I shall place you in costly robes. I have removed your guilt from you, and I shall place you in costly robes. And that is what Jesus did for us on the cross. He removed that guilt. He removed that guilt, and all he's saying is, please step into that. Step into that freedom that I have offered you. I went to the cross. I became sin to erase your sin. I became a curse to erase your curse. Please receive it. I have forgiven you. It says that God has forgiven and will remember no more. And so we get to step into that forgiveness. That is the first step of removing that mom guilt. It's 1, forgiving yourself. Forgive yourself. Matthew 18:21-22 talks about Jesus saying, you should forgive 70 times 7 times per day, right? It's like, how much should I forgive my brother? How much should I forgive? Like, how much is too much? He said 70 times 7 times a day. And yes, Alyssa, but that's talking about other people. Yes. But you know what Mark 12:30, I said that funny. Mark 12:30-31 says? It says that we are to love our neighbors as ourselves. And if God asks us to forgive our neighbor 70 times 7 times a day, and we are to love them as ourselves, well, we need to forgive ourselves to actually have love for ourselves. And so we get to offer that same thing to us. It's not just for other people. God has already forgiven us. He has already forgiven me for that day and how my kids went running and I lost track of them. He has forgiven me for that. Thankfully, he was there to protect them, but he has forgiven me for that. And so I also get to forgive myself for that and walk in love for myself and walk in love for my parenting and walk in love for my children and receive that forgiveness from the Lord. So that's step number one. We get to accept that forgiveness and allow him to remove the guilt and place us in that costly robes. Now, second, what I want you to do is ask yourself, what am I believing about this situation? What am I believing about the situation? See, what I started to believe about that is that I'm a horrible mom. I'm a horrible mom who doesn't have control of her children. And then I started to spiral that my children, they didn't obey me. So that means they're never going to obey me and they're going to turn into these hoodlums and they're going to get in so much trouble and all these things. And I spiraled and spiraled and spiraled. And I was feeling guilty over things that didn't even happen yet. Have you ever been there? I know you have. I know I'm not the only one. I can't be the only one. So I want you to think about, what am I believing about this? And then you get to renew your mind. Romans 12:2 says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. See, the pattern of this world is mom guilt, mom guilt, mom guilt, mom guilt. And I better go drink some wine because I need to overcome this mom guilt. Or, today was a hard, right? Like, that is conforming to this world. Whereas God says to renew our mind, and we renew our mind by the washing of the word. And again, we can go right back to the last two verses of Matthew 18:21-22. Forgive 70 times, 7 times a day. We can go back to the fact that Jesus died on the cross to remove those sins and to remove that guilt and to remove that shame. And back to Mark 12:30-31, where we're supposed to love our neighbors as ourselves. And so we can renew, in Zechariah 3:4, talking about the guilt being removed from us. And so you're going to renew your mind with truth. This is how you take your thoughts captive. What am I believing about this situation? What am I believing about my child in this situation? When your child makes a bad decision, gets in trouble at school, what am I believing about my child? Okay, what does God actually say? Let's go to the word. Let's look at truth and let's renew our minds. What am I believing about my husband in this situation? Because he didn't help me with the trash. He didn't help me do the dishes. He's just whatever. What am I believing about him? What am I believing about him when he said this one comment of, all these things just happen on your watch? What am I believing about him? What am I believing about myself in that moment? And what is the truth? What is the truth? And then I want you to realize that a lot of these things don't get shared on social media. Do you think after my kid ran halfway around the block, I went onto social media and I was like, guys, I'm such a good mom. My child, my 2-year-old, by the way, just ran halfway around the block on the busiest road in our town. Yeah, where cars had to stop and my neighbor had to go get him. And my 2 other boys were the ones chasing him, trying to grab him. I relied on my 4-year-old and my 6-year-old to go get him. Do you think I went and posted that on social media? No, I did not. So this is where we also get to step out of comparison and to know that these things happen. These things happen. Moms lose their cool. The most gentle mom that you see in the store with all the peace and, oh my gosh, she always seems so peaceful. Let me tell you, they get to their breaking point too. They get to their breaking point too, and they might yell or they might say something that they wish they wouldn't have said. But we don't share those things openly. We don't share those things openly. And so I'm here to share that with you. My grandma told me about a time when she had laid the kids down for a nap, and she went outside to hang up laundry on the line. And they were in bed, right? She knew they're in bed, they're taking a nap, I can be out here. So it was weird when she looked around the house and all cars coming from all sides were completely stopped. They weren't moving. And she's like, what is going on? And so she walked around the house. There my uncle is with his little wagon, crossing the street by himself. I think he was like 4 or something, because he wanted to go to a library or something like that. And he just walked out of the house. He was supposed to be napping, walked out of the house, just walked right across the street. One of the busiest roads, had traffic stopped coming both ways, so this little boy could cross the road. My grandma shared that with me, and I was just like, oh my gosh, Grandma, thank you for sharing that with me. Like, that was so freeing. That was so freeing. That is why it says that we should be in community and we should encourage one another and that we should confess these things. Because when we confess these things, there's healing. There is healing to know I'm not alone. And one of the other stories that I just love that's actually in the Bible, okay, is when Mary left Jesus in Jerusalem. What was he, like 12? And they're like a day away from Jerusalem, heading back home, thought that he was with, people in their caravan or whatever. No, he was back in Jerusalem at the temple. And you can find that story in Luke 2:41 through 52. It's almost like God knew that us as moms would have to be encouraged that things like this are going to happen. You may lose your child. You may leave him a day away in Jerusalem. Like, he may run around half the block. He might grab his wagon and go to walk across the busiest street. Like, we can't be everywhere at every moment of the day, watching every single thing. And so it's almost like God knew that. And he put this story in the Bible for us to be encouraged, that even the mother of Jesus like lost track of him. And so I just want to encourage you with that today. Whatever it is, whatever you're feeling guilt over, one, God has already removed it. He has already forgiven you. He has already taken it, and he is asking you to receive it and forgive yourself. And two, rely on God. Rely on him. They are his children too. That is one thing I always pray is, Lord, whatever gaps that I leave, whatever I am missing, Lord, cover those gaps. Protect them. You can see them at all times. I cannot. Protect them, Lord. May your hand be upon them. And so I just want to leave you with that encouragement today, Mama. You are doing a fantastic job. Tell the guilt that the world tells us is normal, tell it to go. Tell it to go. Get out of here. Not welcome here anymore. It gets to go. And if you are looking for prayers to help cover your children like that every day, to remember to ask God to protect them and to cover them and to kind of release a little bit of that worry and that guilt when we don't see everything all the time, go get the Ignite Revival Powerful Prayers and Declarations Guide. It's at revivalmomprays.com. It gives you prayers to pray and things to declare over your children and your husband every single day. Every single day. And so that's you partnering with God in this thing called parenting that sometimes can leave us feeling guilty. But no more, Mama. Go grab that guide. The link is in the show notes. And I cannot wait to see you on the next episode of the Revival Mom Podcast. Hey, Mama. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and share this episode with a friend who may want more intimacy with God and struggles with being the spiritual leader of her home? Also, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It lights me up to know this podcast is helping you. Off I go to ignore my to-do list for about 15 minutes and get into God's Word. I'll meet you back here in a couple of days for another episode where we will be the spark of revival together.